Alright guys, so today we're going to be changing out all three coolant sensors. The first two, it's right here, there's one. Next one's right next to it. It doesn't have the plug on it because I've already took it off. So here's the second one. And then the third one's back here inside your coolant housing, right here. Alright, so the first thing you're going to want to do is take off your air intake and then unplug any connectors down here in the way. Most of my stuff's already out of the way because we are trying to clean out the engine bay, but I highly recommend, if you have the stock air intake, to take it out. So before you start unscrewing any of the sensors or taking any of the sensors off, you do want to open your radiator and let all the pressure out. I completely forgot, and as you can see, coolant exploded all over my engine bay, so I'm gonna have quite a mess to clean up. All right, so we're gonna start taking out sensor number 2 right here. Like I said, all you need is a 10mm deep well extension and some kind of wrench, and should be able to just slide it in there right on, and it will be a little bit tough to take off in the beginning, but it will come out nice and easy. So this is what it looks like when it's out. Mine wasn't working properly. I can tell it's all corroded up. The new one will look like nice and shiny and all brassy. All right, so you want to hand thread it in first so you don't cross thread anything. If it doesn't go in easy, then it's not going in right. All right, once you tighten it as far as you can get it with your hands, you're gonna have to put the wrench on it and tighten it in the rest of the way. Like I said, you just want it till it's snug. That should be it. All right, now you want to put the connector back on. On most models, it has this little piece right here that connects right back on it, kind of like a spark plug. But on mine, it is this little blue connector, if I can find it. Looks like it fell down. Here it is. Alright. See if you can right there. Little blue connector. Back on it. There we go. And that's how you change sensor 2. Now sensor 2 right there, the blue connector, is the one that goes to your gauge. So if you have any gauge problems, that's the one you should change. Now we're going to move on to coolant sensor 1 right here, and we're going to change that one out. So before you take out sensor 1, or the sensor that's going into your housing over here, you're going to want to drain your radiator. And by doing that, there's usually a drain bolt on it. Mine is located in the middle. There are some that are located right underneath, down here somewhere. Or you can take off the hose and drain it. Now, if you have good coolant in there, you can just take off the hose and drain it right into a bucket. And once you're done with everything, put the hose back on and dump it right back in. If it's bad coolant, then you're doing yourself a service and changing it anyways. So a lot of people like to either unplug all of these or remove the cap to your distributor to get to it, but I found it's pretty simple to just stick a socket in there and get to it. So the first thing you want to do is obviously unclip it. So what you're going to need is a 19mm deep well socket and some kind of extension. At least looks like this is like a 5-incher, maybe 6. Now that you have coolant sensor number 1 unplugged, you just need to loosen her up, take her right out, put the new one right in. It is that simple. So this is the same deal as the first one. You just need to hand tighten it in there until you can't tighten it anymore with your hands, and then just tighten it down till it's snug. It has a rubber O-ring on it, so you don't have to super tighten it or anything like that. So you just tighten her down till you get some decent resistance, and there you go. That's all the way on. Now you just want to put the connector back on, and you should hear click when it's in place. Just like that. Make sure it's snug. We're all good on that one. So now you've changed sensor number 2 and sensor number 1. Now we're going to change our fan switch sensor. Alright, so it's the same thing with this one. You just need to take the connector off of it. It's a 24 millimeter deep well socket on it. And unscrew it. This is what the new one will look like. All brassy with a brown tip. Now that we got the new one in place, it's the same concept. Just tighten it down with your hand. Then once it's tightened as far as you can get it with your hand, tighten it down with a wrench till snug. And then we put the connector back on till we hear a click. And that's how you change all 3 of your sensors: your fan switch sensor, your gauge coolant sensor, and your regular coolant sensor. Now once you got all 3 of those sensors changed, you want to refill your coolant. So now you want to make sure you put your air intake back on and hook all your connectors back up. Like I said, you just hear a click and they're all on. Once you got all your connectors up, everything tightened down the way it needs to be. Make sure if you did drain it, you tighten your drain bolt back down, or if you drained it from your hose over here, you want to make sure you tighten your hose clamp back down. And you filled up your radiator, put back the cap. You need to turn her on. Now this is the perfect time to make sure nothing's leaking. That's not leaking. Neither is the other one. I don't see any leaks. We can check and see if it's heating up properly. So everything seems like it's working properly. The hot cold gauge is going up. Temperature seems like it's mellowing out. There's no leaks, so everything's working. If you like this content, please give me a like. If this helped you in any way, please give me a like. And if you want to see more, give me a subscribe. I hope this helped someone, or someone learned something from this. Have a good rest of your day or night. Peace.